Hello one and all, and welcome to this episode of Spillin the Beans, the podcast brought to you by Given Beans, the Barrow Soccer fanzine. Feels like it's been a while. We had a kind of impromptu emergency podcast after the announcement of our new manager. But in terms of actual games and things like that and keeping up the routine, I think we're going back to kind of Cheltenham game territory. So quite a bit to catch ourselves up on tonight, and to do that, I have a guy who is the Barolo wine of Barrow Soccer. He just gets better with age. Dave Ingham, how are you, Dave?
I'm all right, Jonny. I've enjoyed the midwinter break and ready to get going again.
Good stuff. And his Caledonian counterpart tonight, Steve Herbert. How are you, my friend?
I'm absolutely fine. I'm not like a fine wine. I'm more sort of a bottle of Buckfast. And apart from that, I'm ready to shiver in the park of life, of all things Barrow AFC, I guess.
Do you have like a family tartan and all that type of carry on, Steve?
We do not from the head. There isn't a Herbert tartan, but yeah, I think there is a tartan that we can wear from Aberdeen. There's 3 different ones. But the big one up in Aberdeen area is the Gordons. So it's dressed. So that's the tartan I wear.
Right. I'm always pretty disappointed at your parents for not calling you Herbert. Herbert would have been a fantastic name.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be a lovely boy named Sue, wouldn't it? Yeah, but no.
Yeah, very Herman's Hermit. Cool, let's crack on.
That was the week that was. It's over, let it go.
Well, it's not really been the week that was, it's been the few weeks that was, with no game last week due to us not being a part of the FA Cup. Still bitter about the dropping of the FA Cup replays, as I kind of still dream about returning Wigan to Holker Street and beating them there. And they've got a bit of run since as well. They got Arsenal. Although people seem to kind of keep doing that thing where they think, oh, had we beat Wigan and beat Preston, then we'd have played Arsenal away. It's like, it doesn't work like that. And it really needs to be understood. Anyway, and obviously the postponements across pretty much the majority of the league beforehand. So I think just about everybody is refreshed and ready to go. Let's talk about kind of what's going on at the moment, Dave. It's been, a couple of weeks now since Paul Gallagher's announcement as our new head coach. You kind of shared your thoughts at the time on the last pod. Have they kind of developed at all since? Is there anything we've kind of seen, games aside, that we can kind of feel optimistic about?
I mean, he's still in the honeymoon period, the kind of the phony war, because he's not actually had a game to manage. So, we don't know what a Paul Gallagher team looks like, plays like, feels like. We don't know what formation we're going to be lining up in. I mean, he's not really done a lot of press. I mean, we're recording this on a Wednesday night. I'm sure Adam will be at the training ground on Thursday, and he'll get a few more gems out of him, I'm sure. And we're just kind of feeling our way into the Gallagher era, aren't we? To be honest, until we actually see them play and whatnot. That's when we'll get proper first impressions. But, there's been transfer activity, and I think the incoming of Anderson has got Gallagher written all over it. So hopefully that'll kind of go towards ending the myth that Ian Wood signs all the players and hands them over to the coaching staff. Someone that I'm sure Gallagher knew from Stoke and his contacts there, and he's brought in. Obviously, we've dropped a few out of the squad list as well, which has made a few kind of spaces in the over 21 roster. So you never know, we might see another couple of new faces before Saturday, but we're still at that, not yet stage, aren't we, really, with Gallagher? We've not had a game, so at the moment his stock is still relatively high because he's not done anything to spoil it.
Yeah, and obviously we got your thoughts at the time, Dave, as well. Steve, you were on that pod. What's your kind of take on the announcement?
Well, he's unbeaten. To be honest, it's you do the never-ending revolving door. You do sort of build up a fairly high immunity to the whole thing. Although I'm usually, I'm reasonably impressed by his general overall demeanour. I think the only thing that I really thought, oh, that sounds interesting, was as we know, because we've seen it, there's a very good piece coming into the fanzine in a few weeks' time from the Preston guy who obviously knows him, from the Preston fanzine, and that was pretty astute piece of writing. So in the sense of that sounds like it was, he's a pretty skillful player, had to make more of himself, but it's all about the playing side, and he seemed very correct. He seems to have standards and be very correct from what he says. But it's not really. I mean, any sort of real understanding of what he's about to do or that isn't really there yet. They look like they very much come as a pair. They play together, they play together in midfield. But I'm fairly, I just hope it, you want it to be in Everton, not David Dunn, and you don't know whether it's going to be either, and you won't know for a bit of a while. I mean, he's acted reasonably quickly to get a few out. I suspect that they're probably having to think about if they need one that's a bit more. I wouldn't, exciting's a bit unfair, but everybody's fussing correctly about a striker, and we'll see about that. And my other thought really about the entire thing was how is he going to cope with Glad all over? If we score at home, because as a Preston fan, he won't have much love for the Lashers. So I'm not entirely sure how he's going to feel about that blasting out slightly unnecessarily every time he put one in the net. So that's incredible tactical insight. I mean, it's just like between the lines, isn't it?
Yeah, and according to my spy network that I've got out there, he's actually living in Blackpool and living in St Anne's. A friend of mine,
Nice.
Brad Ray, actually, who was former European middleweight champion, recently got beat by Lyndon Arthur. For any boxing fans, good pal of mine, Manchester lad from Stretford, actually living in St Anne's at the moment, and messaged me to say my next door neighbour's a new head coach of Barrow. So there you go. But yeah, we can certainly maybe get beat up if it all goes wrong. I think obviously there's not a lot to add at the moment, having not seen the games. But one thing that has kind of come out is since his appointment, and he mentions this, the guy from the Nosebag, which is Preston's fanzine. The piece that Steve mentioned there, it's going to go in the fanzine, but I think because the fanzine's still a couple of weeks off, we're going to share that online probably tomorrow, just as it's current, with the running the risk of having several games in between now and the fanzine launch. We're going to try and keep the vibes good, so that should be online tomorrow. But one thing he does say in that piece is you will find it hard to find anybody who can say a bad word about Paul Gallagher. So in terms of the relationships he's built with both fans, players, the network in and around football, the comments that we've had so far from people who know seem to be glowing. And I was actually at the training ground myself on, when was it now? Monday, doing an interview for the fanzine, which will reveal more as we get closer to launch. Past the gate, and you can see him all training FC United. You can pretty much pull up and watch him if you're in the area. And he looks like he can do a job for us right now. He's right in the middle of the training session. He's on playing, heading balls, kicking stuff. He looks as fit as a fiddle. So yeah, he's certainly in and amongst it. So it's exciting to see. I think it's definitely lifted the mood a little bit. I think there's some optimism kind of come back to the club after that difficult interim period when nobody really knew what was going on. So yeah, I think we go into Saturday with a fresh mindset, hopefully. But just talking about transfers, Dave, we mentioned a few there. Viv Anderson's son signed. What do we know about him, if anything? I know he's kind of been in and out over in Ireland and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'll be completely honest, I've never seen him play before. The comments that we've seen from kind of Cork City supporters most recently, and people who kind of in and around the youth setup at Stoke seem to think very highly of him. I think crucially it's not going to be his first taste of men's football. I think the Irish League, again, I'm not 100% au fait with the style of play and the standard over there, but it's definitely blokes who will kick you up a height, and it's blokes who've got, mortgages at stake for 3 points on a Saturday afternoon or a Friday night or whenever they play. So he will have experienced that kind of, the white heat of competition. So we're not throwing him into something that should be too overwhelming. And, coming from Stoke, that's all well and good, but can he do it on a cold night in cold Tuesday night in Barrow?
Yeah. And I think, like you mentioned before as well, and I'll come to you and Steve on this, because getting the new coach is all about them connections, and this one straight away is coming out of his the Paul Gallagher book of contacts, and seems to be a player he's kind of followed ever since early days of youth football into first team action. So he seems to come with high praise from the boss.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly does. I think Cork City have had a bit of it. I mean, my knowledge of the Irish League is on the limited side, but I'm pretty sure he got to a cup final with them this year. So he's had a cup run, and they've also had some really bad ups and downs. I think they were even near the bottom at one point. So he's had blips in form, ups and downs. They've got a quite passionate support. I think the standard's probably similar in the lower half of League Two, but I don't know but with a few exceptions. So it's not as Scotland's great, but it's not as good as Scotland. But they've got some, perhaps a couple of League One-ish, and then mostly lower end League Two. So he can, he should be able to scrap and fight. I'm still, I'm old enough to, remember his father quite well, and so, if there's anything, can Dad still do a job? I mean, the way we need the pace. Well, it's quick, and we need some pace. And to be honest, his father's might be quicker than some of our defenders on the more unkind days. So, there's not any. The show reel or whatever it is they call it is great. But then if you can't make your show reel great, you really are struggling. So I'm spoke well. As far as these things go, why not? I'm marginally more excited about him than the keeper.
Yeah, Killian Barrett of Irish connection, and of course on Freddie Anderson as well. What he revealed in his interview is that he room shared with Rory Feely. Dave, that connection just keeps coming back.
That's it, Barrow legend Rory Feely. You're looking at the transfer market in January. There's not too many that can play centre half, right back, and goalkeeper. So in terms of filling a squad place, he's got to be on the Barrow index somewhere. One of the tabs right at the end of the spreadsheet, hasn't he?
It's going to be interesting to see what type of system Paul Gallagher does play, because if he's going to three at the back, we are a little bit light of a defender at the moment, with now Canavan, I assume, suspended. Whether he'll even play as much, whether Gallagher sort of takes a fancy to him, we might see a little bit of him pretty soon, hopefully. The keeper, well, I think that's down to the Winterbottom injury. I think there's nothing. We won't be able to drag too much conversation out of that one, but something a bit more interesting, Dave, is the players we've shipped out, because obviously some biggish signings in the summer have already gone, and it looks like we're kind of clearing the decks a little bit.
Yeah, and it's something we needed to do, because we were at the limits of how many over 21s we had on the squad list. There's only so many you're allowed. So if we're going to bring extra players in, which I think we all agree we need to, we needed to make a bit of room. Kuate has gone out on loan. Good luck to him. Hope he makes an impression, but we're not really, he's never been in and around it, has he, this season? So that's not really a loss. John Shamolo, yeah, I think the silence says it all. But I didn't. Did he have a cameo in a pre-season game or something? I must admit, I missed that. But he's very much the modern day Nigel Pepper in the fact that he kind of turned up, made zero impression, then buggered off again. And Regan Booty, Booty's the kind of the disappointing one because obviously, we paid a fee for him, didn't we? And we stuck him on a 3-year contract. So obviously there was high hopes for him in the summer, but he started each of the first 8 games. I didn't see a lot in him that I thought this is a man that's going to, be the linchpin of a really good League Two team. Obviously, it's not, the bad start wasn't all down to him, but he didn't seem to be like a diamond in the rough. He was almost as bad as the rest of them. So I don't know. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. He's obviously, hit a groove at Boreham Wood, and they've ponied up the transfer fee to make it permanent. And good luck to him. Good luck to them. Good luck to anyone who's involved with Boreham Wood because it's Boreham Wood, isn't it?
Oh, it's bleak.
Yeah, good luck to him. But hopefully this means now we have cleared the decks a little bit. Hopefully we'll get some senior players coming in. So, a centre forward who knows where the goal is, maybe another experienced gnarled centre half. I don't know, maybe another fullback, a left fullback maybe. I think we're all right-ish in the middle of the park, but kind of as I said on the last pod, we're 19th in League Two, so there's room for improvement pretty much in any position, isn't there? There's only probably one or two that could turn round and say, well, you're not going to get much better than me for the budget that we've got. So we're halfway through, getting up to halfway through the window, so still plenty of time as all the various cogs whirl and, bricks fall into place and all that sort of thing. So, people further up are signing so they can let players out on loan, and injuries and changes of form and stampings of feet and contracts that aren't going to be renewed. So, yeah, it's never mind Christmas for a football fan. It's the most wonderful time of the year, isn't it? That kind of couple of weeks where there's lots of activity where your phone goes and you think, oh, now have we signed? So, yeah, let's see how it goes.
Yeah, Bootsy is the kind of main talking point, Steve. I suppose why no one's too concerned about it is obviously for the reason Dave mentioned. He never really set the place alight, and it's probably the one area of the pitch where we do seem to have quite a bit of health and a bit of depth in terms of midfielders. So it looks like a bit of a clearing out in terms of making way for some of them positions that we desperately need.
Yeah, that's one that I wonder. That's actually one I wonder who did sign him, because and where the recommendation was from, because it seemed fairly logical that he would probably do a decent job, but he just didn't seem. He looked a bit caught by the pace, but also I think the way we were playing as well. He was wanting people to. They were wanting people to bomb around or sort of cancel people out. He certainly couldn't play high enough to play in the sort of 4-2 whatever, the 2-10s. He couldn't. He wasn't a sitter. It wasn't box to box. It didn't really leave a lot. I mean, I always thought the best I could think of really was, he was kind of like Matt Boyd. You wondered if he'd had, I imagine he could have hit some lovely diagonals if he'd had everybody else running around him and, he was strolling through it, but we weren't playing. Well, I mean, we just don't play that way. And, if I'm still not sure if he was ever up to the standard, but he had some things about him, and I'm sure he'll do fine. I'm pleased for him. He's pleased for the lad that he's playing, and I'm not. You'd never thank anybody for being down that absolute. Oh goodness me! Imagine having to be in somewhere like Boreham Wood, but
Why do we dislike him so much?
I've been 7 times.
It's just a depressing place, John. If you've ever been to Boreham Wood, it just sucks the life out of you. As soon as you come out of the train station and walk down the main street, you just think this is life for some people. And it's not a particularly it's not the pits of despair and desperation. It's just nothing there. It just seems like I'm struggling to find the words. It's just functional and Newtown planning by numbers. It's kind of Milton Keynes' horrible offspring.
Milton Keynes is like the left bank of the bloody South compared to Boreham Wood. It's got anyway. Yeah, it's Gateshead-esque as well. Not in its bigness, but it's just
and the club are horrible, don't they?
They don't let you in the small crap bar that they've got. Yeah, we really don't like Boreham Wood. There's a whole podcast there, sorry. So I like it. And you can see my only. So I've been to lots of places because of we hate Boreham Wood. So St Albans was quite nice. London was quite nice. We went somewhere else. Even the weird place in the hill where I never know where we were, that had the weird Hungarian shots on my 52nd birthday. Even that was preferable, and that was very strange. And that was, good old Borehamwood. Yeah, sorry about that. Tangent Central.
Yeah, I was going to say a little bit off-piece, but they are the worst places to be as well, the kind of Stevenages of this world, these kind of purpose overspills where they just seem to dump people and expect them to survive and build a culture for themselves and just never manage to succeed. So, I'm sure they have plenty of things to say about Barrow as well. That's for sure. Right, let's move on, because like I say, in the absence of a game and the absence of any particular excitement amongst the signings, let's turn our attention to the weekend and check the answer machine to see if any of our friends from Crewe have got in touch.
Hello, you've reached the offices of Gibbon Beans. All our Beans operatives are busy getting it forward at the moment. Please leave your message after the beep.
Hi Barrow Pod fans, it's Tom here from Crewe's Railwaymen Podcast. So I'm a panellist on our weekly pod, which goes out on a Monday, and I'm also a writer for the website where we do previews, analysis and match reports. I'd characterise our season so far as inconsistent. We've seen a pattern of a poor performance followed by a reaction when the teams had a word with themselves and the managers set out to try and save his skin. However, unlike many teams in League Two, we've been unable to find any real consistency throughout the season. We've tended to beat the better teams, and then we've tended to underperform against relegation candidates. We've had a recent pattern of quite winnable games against teams in the bottom third, but managed a total of 3 points against Newport, who we've played home and away, Harrogate and Bristol Rovers. But in the middle of that, we managed to beat Cheltenham 4-1. Who were one of the higher performing teams on form in the division at that point. Our first 11's really strong and can beat anybody in the league on their day, but then there's a massive drop-off to the players in reserve, who are a mix of poorly performing loanees, free transfers and inexperienced academy players. Some players to look out for. So there's Mickey Dimitriou, who you'll be well aware of. He's our captain and leader and absolutely vital to the integrity of our defence. He's been out injured for quite a while. He's had a knee meniscus injury and he returned against Cheltenham, and it's no coincidence really that we won on that occasion on his return to the team. But there's question marks over his fitness and whether he'll be able to play every week. We've recently signed a new loanee called Alfie Pond, who's a young defender from Wolves, 21 years old. His parent team rates him highly, but they all say that, don't they? So there's a possibility we might see him slotting into defence, hopefully alongside Mickey to get him some game time. Our main creative force is Tommy O'Reilly on the right wing. He's on loan from Aston Villa. A lot of our goals arise from his creative ability. We've got Josh March, who signed in the summer from Harrogate. He's our only fit striker of any real quality at the moment. And he's the sort of player where if he plays well and presses high up the pitch, then our team tends to perform well too. And then similarly, we've got Max Sanders, who's a deep-lying playmaker in midfield. Again, everything goes through him, and if he tends to play well, then we play too. Signed a new keeper during the start of the transfer window. So Ian Lawler has joined us on a permanent. He was Doncaster Rovers reserve keeper. It doesn't sound all that exciting on paper, but actually we were crying out for an experienced keeper to come in, because previously we were relying on Tom Booth, who's a academy keeper, and then a young 20-year-old on loan from Burnley, and it didn't really make sense having two inexperienced keepers. So he performed quite well against Harrogate, arguably man of the match, and hopefully he'll shore us up and will be a bit more solid and reliable at the back. Impressions of Barrow. So I see you've appointed a new manager who's not had a game yet. So I think inevitably new manager bounce is incoming. You've got some standout experienced players in Tom Barkhuizen and Conor Mahoney, who've experienced at a higher level. You've got a couple of Crewe alumni, Rakeem Harper, who had a pretty underwhelming loan spell with us during our season when we got relegated disgracefully from League One. and Kane Hemmings, who played for us last season, who I think I've got a lot of time for. But unfortunately, his legs had gone and didn't really fit our system, sadly. Looks like goals were a problem for you, and keeping them out at the other end is also a problem for you. And you tend to have very little possession in matches. Maybe that'll change under your new manager. So my thoughts about the upcoming game on Saturday. So Dr. Crewe have been very accommodating to treating struggling football teams visiting Gresty Road. And that combined with your new manager bounce, there's a feeling that there's only one outcome coming down the tracks for us this weekend. Having said that, we've had a pattern of seeing a strong reaction following a poor performance, and we didn't perform particularly well against Harrogate, even though we should have seen the game out and won 1-0. It was a pretty insipid performance, particularly in the first half. So hopefully we'll see some reaction, and we'll see a return to the high pressing style that served us well in our victories this season. That said, I'd predict a close game, probably more out of hope than expectation. I would predict 1-0 to the Alex, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if you won with your new manager.
Yeah, so Crewe away this Saturday. I was looking forward to this one. I just really like that away end and that low roof. You know, if you get enough as you're in there, you can make a good noise. I didn't go there last season, and so the last time I was there, I think I'm correct here, was the 3-2. Unless I'm missing one in the middle. But yeah, Dave, what's your thoughts on this Saturday's game?
As we were saying before, we're still kind of got that new manager optimism. He's still bright and shiny and new, isn't he? He's not tarnished his reputation yet by some terrible selections or a bad run of form. So this is as optimistic as it gets, really. Before we even kick a ball, I was listening to the Crewe podcast the other day actually, just to see how what the vibe was from down there, and yeah, they seemed a very pessimistic bunch. They weren't happy at all after the Harrogate game. That's the feeling that Harrogate always leave you with, isn't it, I suppose? But they were just kind of really frustrated about their inability to put away the bad teams, which probably we fall in that category. And just the kind of soft centre to them and just general all-round frustration. And I just thought, they're one of them teams that they're 4 points off the playoffs, but they're also 4 points off Cheltenham in 18th. It's kind of like the bottom team in that middle morass of teams who are all kind of much of a muchness. So the rest of the season could go either way, really, for Crewe. And I don't know, from a tactical point of view, is it better to go and kind of put 6 or 7 behind the ball and frustrate them and, get the crowd turned, or is it best to just turn up and put your chest out and say, right, we're coming to have a go at you and attack them full force from the first minute? I don't know, but I think Gallagher probably would go for the latter if he's talking about the value of pace and being front foot. He's probably thinking these are there for the taking. But they've got some decent players. Mickey Dimitriou, centre half. As the lad said there, Josh March up front. Barrow legend Omar Bogle, who played such a part in winning the Conference North for us when he scored against Fylde on that, was it the penultimate weekend of the season? So hopefully he might be warming up. We can give him a bit of an appreciation. But yeah, they've got some decent players, but it's like a lot of these teams in League Two, hasn't it? They've got 4 or 5 who you wouldn't mind in your own squad. But the rest of them are obviously kind of riddled with inconsistency and have weaknesses. We've got nothing to fear going down there, but at the same time, they're probably looking at us and thinking that it's a decent chance to kickstart their own season and get a bit of momentum going again. Yeah,
and just looking at the head-to-head, I mean, I always have this, just from kind of what's in my head, really, rather than looking at actual information on this, that we have a pretty decent record against Crewe. And I say that because I kind of remember lots of wins as we've kind of met over the years. If just looking at that actual run now, going back to when we're going 29th October 2022, it's been 1 loss, 1 loss, 1 loss, 1 loss, 1 lost. So we kind of share the takings on this, and lots of 3-0s, 3-1s. I don't think it's a 3-2 before it was 3-1. Last year really being the anomaly. last game, so really being an anomaly, Steve, where we won 1-0 at home, which kick-started that unbeaten run, which we thought was kind of turning things around for Andy Wing. But yeah, every other game has had a team scoring 3 goals in it. So there's been, quite a turnaround of results there and goals in this particular fixture.
Yeah, we always end up fairly rather depressed or reasonably satisfied, really. We tend to do, and I haven't looked at the record, but we tend to do worse there, I think. The one that I liked there was when we did have a bit of a go at him. I think Ben Whitfield was a little purple patch where Ben Whitfield played centrally. Where it was one of those office party pre-Christmas games on a night. And I'm at 50% of the way and we're roaring drunk.
It was definitely one of the most pissed away ends we've had since we've come back into League Two. It was Mad Friday, so everyone had finished reasonably early.
And so that was pleasant. The team who were on a good run at that point, and Ben Whitfield in particular, we were well on top. Certainly at first. I've also been down there when it's been reasonably depressing. I mean, there's another game around Easter time where I spent the entire second half looking after somebody from the bus that had over imbibed so that we could get him back on, and I don't feel I missed much rather than sort of...
No. Last season at Crewe was an absolute disgrace. That was the one where Wing blew his top at them after the game, and yeah, I think I was one of the last people out of the away end that day because I was just glaring at them and just generally shouting at the last few that were kind of leaving the pitch that they'd let everyone down, and it was not acceptable. And I'm fairly stoic. I'm usually one of the ones who claps them off in most circumstances, but yeah, I'd kind of gone way beyond the end of my tether at that Crewe game. It was awful. But yeah, as you say, Steve, that and Jonny, that 3-1 on the Friday night that week, because we'd just beaten Swindon away, we'd got the Crewe away. That was the high point of wildism, wasn't it? That was, we felt we could take on the world at that point.
One thing we'll say about Crewe is that they seem to have the biggest meltdown every time they lose to us. Certainly on Twitter, I remember last time we had our good friend Tim, who we tried to get on. He then recommended Tom to us, both of the Railwaymen podcast. So it's all in good taste. But they seem to really dislike getting beat by us. It seems to irk them, which is great. And that one we're speaking about there, let's just call it the most pissed away day ever, was the George Ray controversy. And obviously used to play for George Ray used to play for Crewe.
But it wasn't a controversy.
It wasn't a controversy. Yeah.
In midair, and you'd have to be blind not to have been able to spot the push. But they swore blind that he dived. And I thought, well, how the hell do you dive when you're kind of changing trajectory in midair? That's kind of Olympic diving standards diving. That's not kind of taking a tumble in the area and trying to hoodwink a linesman or something. That would have been defying the laws of physics, never mind defying referees. They are they're a strange bunch. I think they're a bit like, we were talking about this the other day, they're a bit like Tranmere in the fact that they had a couple of good seasons in the 90s when they were in the Championship, and all of a sudden, they kind of back down to what would probably historically be their natural level, and they can't readjust themselves to it, and we turn up and they kind of naturally think that they're superior to us for whatever reason, and if they don't dispatch us 5-0, then it's an insult to all that's good and holy about Crewe Alexandra. But yeah, it's one of them, and it's like read the date on your newspaper, chaps. It's 2026. You're League Two, same as us. Get on with it. Deal with it.
Yeah, we all had 3 good years in the 90s, but Christ, how long ago was that? And I'm a bit, I'm just a bit underwhelmed by the whole thing there. Actually, I'm an underwhelmed by Crewe. I'm not going because I've been unable to move a under sevens fixture, as Millom have held firm with the original kickoff. Such is life in junior football.
Stodge, Millamites.
No shout out whatsoever to the town of Millom for that. So I am not going. And I can't say I'm devastated. The only thing I will miss is that excitement of working out what he's going to do in sort of first manager. I think that little frisson that you get. So apart from that, I hope we have a lovely day. and I hope we have a go at them, because it can't be as bad as last time away.
Just for balance, I mean, I quite like it, but I'll caveat the fact I quite like Crewe away because I actually really spend very little time in Crewe because it's so close to the train station. You can drink in Manchester, Stockport or wherever and just kind of get off at the ground, go watch the game, get back in the train and get out. So I've seen very little of Crewe. But that's been some pub recommendations. Dave hasn't coming in. I think there's a rather terrible one that we always get shoved into, but if you venture away from that, you can find yourself in some nice little establishments.
Yeah, we seem to gravitate to what's called the Cheshire Inn. That's on that main road near the ground, and it's it's not somewhere you'd go on a date night, was it really? But yeah, if you kind of move away from the ground and away from the station, there's a little triangle that I think is the Borough Arms, Tom's Tap and Brew House, and the delightfully named Crewe Dog, which I don't know, it depends how quick you walk. 5-10 minute walk up the road from the ground. So if you're getting there in good time, then it's probably worth an explore of some of the places away from the ground. So hopefully I'll arrive in good time to pay those a visit. I know some of the southern contingent are going to set up camp in the Borough Arms, so hopefully get in there and see a few familiar faces and talk treason with the chaps and get ready for the game.
That's if there's a good IPA on the cards, Dave. I'm like one of them speed walkers, me. So, so I'll be making my way down there to Crewe Dog. Okay, that's that. Steve, the floor is yours. You're here for one very important reason. You've got 5 minutes. Tell us everything about Barrow 125 that's happening, because now we're pretty much live. We got our first event announced, and there's a website going live tomorrow, I think, Steve. So, yeah, give us the latest.
Okay, I'm here for one reason and one reason only, and that is to share the news that's going really, really well. So, Barrow 125. First thing we're going to talk about, what is it? It's amalgamation and joining together of the Bluebirds Trust, Given Beans, the club, anybody else who wants to get involved, Dock Museum, and it's to celebrate our 125th year. And not just that, it's an amazing opportunity to use football as a catalyst for celebration of the town, historical research, different things for the kids. Lots and lots of ways to, celebrate Barrow AFC and to hopefully leave a lasting legacy of a particular year. Well, it's really a year and a half because it's the 125th year, and then you've got the 125th season. So the 125 goes on for that much. So so talking about that, I suppose we'll start with what it is. So there's a few elements to it, and a lot of it is dependent on how we do. But we've got how we do in terms of different bids. But the things that we have definitely got in place, we'll start with the exhibition. That's at the Dock Museum in June and goes on for 3 months. It is, and that's all things Barrow AFC. And I think really the Dock Museum, and realising we had quite a limited space, and once you start to unpick it, there's so much you can actually do. Then you realise that from that we'll have that exhibition, there'll be an event, there'll be a community event, and that got us thinking that we would have so many artefacts and things that you could do with that, and wouldn't it be nice if we were able to use that at the ground? So then we talked about a heritage space. So that's hopefully going to happen. That's very bid dependent, but there'll be a place to store different artefacts or borrow different artefacts and memorabilia and information, and so that would be in the sort of footprint between the crossbar and the fan zone around there. And so you get a nice sort of flow through when you come to Barrow as well. So it's sort of semi-permanent. So that's the idea anyway. And we're also going to utilise and do up that area, which is pretty nondescript. So fingers crossed for that. And it is dependent on a bid. The other thing as well of that is it can put Holker Street in what you would call a heritage trail, because Barrow FC hasn't always been at Holker Street. Most of it has, but, you know, Barrow Soccer's about the town. So obviously there's a starting point, and then there's some other, and there's lots of different areas of interest in the Heritage Trail. And all of that links to things like spoken word, different stories of the town. So as well as the areas you're at, it has different focus. You know, so say you're at there's a lot to do with the shipyard, and there's one that's got different focus with remembrance. And so there's loads and loads of different learning you can do with that. So there's about a 5 kilometre trail around the town, which is going to be twinned with an app that the Dock Museum already have got for, I think it's called the Ironworks Trail or something like that. That's going to be great, and hopefully within that, particularly at the where it all began, of course, which is the old drill hall, which is actually the Strand, and it's actually kind of just at one end of Morrison's. So you would start there, work your way right around the town, and also through Holker Street as well. So you could cycle, walk as a family. You can go and do things in terms of educational. Next thing's a curriculum, because you have to have some educational things to do. So that's pretty important as well. So we're going to have that curriculum is going to be written for Barrow, and not just what are we doing in the last 125 years, but we're going to use it to talk about the town, the parallels from then till now, from 1901, the links to the shipyard and the railway and different things through the town, and most importantly, getting everybody to express themselves and celebrate that. So in terms of what can you do about it, you've hopefully seen our, if you like, Antiques Roadshow pastiche that Punk's fabulously put together. And that tells us about a week on Saturday, 24th at the Crossbar. And that's giving us a focus for you to tell your stories. What objects, what different things mean a lot to you about Barrow Soccer? You know, what says that? And so we're hoping to talk to lots of people. We've got a ton of recording equipment. We're going to have loads of things. Even it said the 1930s, but it's actually, I think, the oldest things from the 1910s that we've got to look at. So there's things to look at. There's a Heritage Trail draft. It's very much a draft that you can feed back on and suggest other things, or say what you have. There's recordings you can make. There's people you can visit to ask about these things. There'll be film opportunities to get your photo taken as well. We're also having an interview. There's an interview booth if you want in the Crossbar. We've got, and that's going to be partly for guests do different oral histories, like Gene Arrowsmith, who's got lots to tell us about Brian. And that's just getting up ahead of steam, really. And if you want any questions about it at all, just 125 at bluebirdstrust.co.uk. It is going to be great, but it will only be great if you guys get on board, because it's nothing to, it's not me, it's not the 8 or 9 people that are doing quite a lot for it, and it's not people, wonderful though they are, that have written about Barrow or talked about Barrow, who have all offered their stuff and all offered the opportunity. It's about us having a really good time, good laugh, and celebrating the club and the town. So please, anytime from 10 till 3 o'clock, a week at the Crawley game, a week on Saturday, please come and have a look.
Yeah, and that's advertised on the official Barrow channels as well, so you're going to hear about that there. Steve mentioned... Oh, sorry, Steve, go on.
Website. Sorry, Johnny. Sorry, and all of it's underpinned by a website that we're going to have released by the time this comes out, and it's been really well put together, and that's going to be, if you like, the structure that holds the whole thing together and gives that opportunity. So I just wanted to put that one in as well.
Yeah, and I can add a little bit to that as well, because the website is pretty much there and thereabouts in terms of getting live. As Steve mentioned, ourselves at Gibbon Beans have been supporting and working on that, and it tells a lot more about them 4 categories: the Heritage Walk, the Club Museum, the exhibition, and those educational resources. And all that's going to get built out over the course of the year to be part of this, incredible celebration of 125 years of the club and its impact within the town. So barrow125.com is going to be the website domain, but keep your eye out on all the social channels across the Trust, Gibbon Beans, even the club itself. We'll be sharing stuff about this in the next couple of days. But the event sounds great. I love the promo around the kind of Antiques Roadshow style. So anybody down at the Crawley game next week, get yourself there early for that. Quite a lot going on at the moment as well, just to kind of wrap up, because the night before, the club are treating everyone to a Q&A, a town hall session with club CEO Ian Wood, Trust Director Fraser Stewart, Paul Gallagher's going to be there, as well as Tony Shearer as well. So it's a full cast of... Is it not, Dave? You're shaking your head. It says...
No, not the first one, no. It's Gallagher and
in
Welsh.
March. Sorry, yes,
Wood
you're right,
Stewart, yeah. And then, it's Paul Hornby and Tony Shearer in March sometime.
Ah, okay, cool, yeah. So that's on at the Crossbar from 6:30 next Friday. So some really good stuff happening at the club. It says here it's going to be completely uncensored, so get yourself down there and ask the questions that you're all dying to be answered. And hopefully by that point we'll have a nice 3 points away at Crewe. We'll have some new signings through the door and everything will feel rosy again. So yeah, that's all going on. Steve, just quickly, buses. We've got Crewe, obviously. There's still spaces on that.
Yes, very, very, very limited. There's only a few, but yes, there's still spaces. And
Swindon coming up, I think, following that.
There are buses planned for Swindon. I would say making sure that we get those that want to go book early so that they've got a reasonable idea about how many buses they'd like.
Wonderful stuff. Well, thank you very much, gents. Dave, I will see you Saturday. Steve, you'll be listening from afar. Let's go again, 2026.